Well, wherever you stand on climate change after these bushfires, we all need to acknowledge that the ferocity of them has given the global warming advocates a degree of impetus. It's obvious. A slightly warmer planet may well be increasing the ferocity of fires, but scientists can't agree on by how much. And the international poster girl for climate change, Greta Thunberg, has managed to make some nervous Nellies of some of the world's largest corporations and directors of boards. That green intimidation has been tested right here on German telecommunications group Siemens, who were outed by Thunberg as a contractor to Adani and the Carmichael mine in Queensland. But after intervention by Resources Minister Matt Canavan, Siemens is staying right where it is to complete railway signalling at the site. The Minister joined me shortly before coming to air. Minister, thank you very much for your time.
No worries, Chris. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. So you've stared down Greta Thunberg, you and Siemens, and you've got a little bit of a victory over her.
Well, look, thankfully common sense has once again prevailed, Chris. This Adani project has attracted so much controversy, but ultimately it is a coal mine. It represents about 0.025% of the world's coal production, but it means lots of jobs for people in Queensland, desperate jobs for areas that have suffered through high unemployment in the last few years. And so we just want to get this project over, get going. We're sick of it all. I mean, we had an election last year. It was a topical issue. We've got a way of determining controversial issues in our country. It's called democracy. And the people spoke and supported Adani. So the project's proceeding. We had this one railway contract, it's a $30 million contract or so, and the CEO of Siemens got a few jitters there just before Christmas after receiving a letter from Richard Di Natale. But thankfully, common sense prevailed. I wrote to the Siemens CEO, others reached out, and the local Siemens team here have been great. They're getting behind a project that's creating jobs, going to create cheap energy for a growing India as well. And also a high-quality product. Our coal is lower emissions than coal from other countries, so it's a good thing that we're expanding Australian coal production.
It is a good thing. You've intervened, and I'm glad it's going ahead, because at the end of the day, this Greta Thunberg, for all her good intentions, is trying to get in the way of people's livelihoods, of people's jobs, in this absolutist theory about climate change. Some of the chief executives and boards of directors of these companies around the world have to stand up to this sort of stuff.
Well, we just need some practical and pragmatic action and statements from companies. There's another company out there today pushing its own particular vested interest in gas, saying coal's got on the way out, we've got to now go to gas, and gas is the next target of the likes of Greta Thunberg, so they're getting defensive. I mean, we've got to focus on the problem here. If we've got a problem, we want to lower carbon emissions, we should just try and do all ways of doing that. But the real issue we've got is that some of the people out there who claim to be very concerned about climate change and want to reduce carbon emissions, their actual goal is not to do that. Their actual goal is to upend society, to in some senses, move away from capitalism, to take down power structures in their view. And so their policy prescriptions aren't actually about reducing carbon emissions, they're about these radical, massive changes to our economy and society.
Yeah, the weather is just a conduit.
That's not what
for
people
these
want.
people. The weather's just a conduit.
Exactly. Because if they were really focused on reducing carbon emissions, they'd be right for nuclear, right? But none of these activist types are for that, right? But you'd be right for it if you really did subscribe to their dystopian views on this issue. But also you'd be looking at all different ways we can reduce carbon emissions, and we can do that through technology, like what we're seeing in the United States with the shale gas revolution. I mean, how ironic is it that the one country in the world that's pulling themselves out of Paris, that is not putting any targets in place for carbon emission reductions, is actually reducing their carbon emissions by more than any other country in the world, any other major country at least. And that's because of this wonderful thing called science, technology, commercial know-how. That's what we've got to apply here in Australia too, to tackle that problem, as well as continue to have a strong economy and provide lots of jobs.